Welcome to another episode of Fed Pilot, where we answer your questions and dive into all things federal employee retirement benefits. Today, we're going to talk about a question I got. This question, I usually do questions based on the workshops that we do. This one was a direct email to me asking me a question, and I thought it would be beneficial to cover. So I didn't get it set up here. Just let me do that real quickly. Okay. So this, Jeff, thank you for your email. Jeff wrote me. Jeff said, hey, this may not be a lot of people, but it's actually more people than you think, Jeff. He says, my wife is retired from the Forest Service, from a forest that comes under the rest of the U.S. Now, when he talks about comes under the rest of the U.S., what he means by that is that it really doesn't have any locality pay, right? I mean, you get your base, and then depending on what, you know this, right? Depending on where you live in the US, you can actually get more than that. The locality pay will say, hey, this part of your, overall you have more inflated prices in this area, so we're going to give you more to keep up with the cost of living, is basically what that is. Connecticut has the largest locality pay out of all of them. Next comes Massachusetts and California in certain areas. And so depending on where you live, you can get your base pay, but an increase called the locality pay. So this is what he says. But his wife lives in an area where there is no locality pay, or it's just what we call the rest of the US. All right. In the salary table. Okay. But she moved the next day after she retires. So she retires and moves the next day to an area that's under a high pay COLA. Okay, this is where it gets confusing, and I totally understand because a lot of people confuse this. There's locality pay that you get as an employee added to your salary. Then there's COLA, cost of living adjustment, that you get as a retiree. Those two don't mix. They don't mix at all. And so he says under a higher pay COLA, there is no such thing as a higher pay COLA. What you're actually thinking of, let's say that you live in the middle of, South Dakota, okay, which is probably, I haven't looked at the map, but I'm almost positive is under the rest of the US, okay? And then you move to Connecticut, where there's a high locality pay. I don't know why you would make that switch, but you may, I don't know. So you go and do that. When you retire, there's no more locality pay because you're not being paid as an employee. And everyone in the US gets the same COLA, depending on which FERS or SURS. That's the only differentiator. It doesn't matter on where you live. It matters now if you're FERS or SURS. That's the only differentiator. And he asked, does her retirement check stay under the rest of the US pay COLA, or should it be under the higher in the area that she is now at? Well, again, like I just said, there is no locality anything. It doesn't matter where you move. So she actually did it backwards from what I'll say when people think about this, what they usually do. Typically, what you want to do is have your high three, which typically is the last 3 years of your work, but not always. So your last high three in a high locality pay, let's say Connecticut, right? So you work in Connecticut, you work in California, you work in wherever it may be, you get a higher locality pay, your high three bumps up, and then when you retire, you move to some place that has a low cost of living. Now, coincidentally, those low cost of livings also have a lower locality pay, but the locality pay when you retire doesn't matter anymore because you're not getting paid. It's just COLA from that point on. And then so what you do is you build up your high three, and then you move to somewhere that has less cost of living, and it makes it a little bit easier to live because you're getting more in a lower cost area. What she did was went from a low cost area then retired and went to a higher cost of living area, but there is no increase there at all. Unfortunately, there's not. Now, the sad part about it, and Jeff, I don't know if this happened to you, your wife, or if this happens to others, but there is potential for people to misunderstand how this works, think that they're going to move to a higher locality pay area in retirement and get more money, and then realize, oh no, that's not working. It doesn't work that way. That is a complete misunderstanding of how the whole system works. An understandable one, however. I totally get that, but that doesn't help that actually happened. So that's why it's so important to come to one of our workshops, to understand how it works, to understand why it works that way, to understand, oh, there's more help that I can get to make sure that whatever move I'm going to decide to do, that it actually works better for me rather than works against me. So I hope that's been a bit educational. I dove in just a little bit deeper into that one question. Again, Jeff, thanks for emailing me that question. It was a fabulous question. We get it every now and then. You're not the only one that gets that for sure. So come to our workshop. Come learn some more. Talk to you later.